big question, is it okay to go to a private college or not? I have received many messages. The template remains the same. It goes something like this, that I have prepared for the exam and I could not get a good rank, and I just don't have the energy in me to prepare again. The whole idea of preparing again makes me feel really nervous and I feel really overwhelmed. I can get a branch of my choice in a private college, or I can get so and so branch in a private college, but is it okay to take a seat in the private college? Is it okay spending this much amount of money? And I also feel like a failure for picking up a branch in a private college. What should I do? So this is the basic template of these questions. Let us try to understand the nuances and try to reach to an answer. I see three important things here. First of all, feeling like a failure because you are not able to crack the exam. That is one point. Second point is it okay to ask for money from your parents to get into a college? Third part, the return of investment, ROI. If I have to spend 70 lakh, 80 lakh, 1 CR on a particular branch, is it even worth it? Let's talk about all these 3 points one by one. The first is the feeling of failure. Now see guys, why do you feel like a failure? Because there's an entrance examination and you are supposed to crack it, and all of you have multiple examples around yourself of your seniors, your colleagues, your juniors who have cracked it, but for some reason you have not been able to do so. Either you tried and could not crack the exam, or you did not feel like trying, you never were into studies that much and the results were not so good, and that makes you feel like a failure. The problem with this way of thinking is you are making your judgment on the basis of one particular thing. Who cracks entrance examination? What are the qualities required to crack the entrance examination? One, you should be very hardworking. You should be able to sit for hours and hours. Second, you should have a good memory. You should be able to memorize stuff. This is true for most of the entrance examinations, more so for our medical entrance examination. But these are the two qualities that are judged by our entrance exam. Whether you can sit for hours and hours and hours and slog and memorize and memorize. And if you have a great memory, you would get better ranks. But we have to have some kind of, some good quality memory to remember so much stuff. But are these the traits, or are these the qualities that get you success in the world outside the medical colleges? If I can memorize a lot of stuff, does that make me a good doctor? If I can memorize a lot of stuff, does that help me make a better platform? If I memorize a lot of stuff, does that improve my social skills? The answer is no. For success in your professional career, as a doctor, as an entrepreneur, as whatever, the skills required are very different from the skills that are required to crack the entrance examination. And that is why often we see people who do very well in the college exam don't do so well in the entrance exam, and those who do very, very well in the entrance exam don't succeed always in the professional careers. So what I'm trying to say is, you are judging yourself on the basis of one parameter. That parameter is important, but that should not define failure and success for you. Are you good in everything that you do? Do you have all the qualities? None of us have all the qualities, but that does not mean you're a failure, right? So if you are not made up for the entrance examination, if you're not that kind of a person who can mug, that's okay. That does not make you a failure. You are not good in something, big deal. Nobody's good in everything. Does that mean that you should not give it a try? No, you should give it a try. You should try to work hard. And that brings us to the second part of the question, that statement that, sir, I just can't imagine myself studying again. I feel overwhelmed when I think about studying again. When I feel depressed when I feel about studying again. That line is very important. See, you have to push yourself. At the same time, you have to stop yourself from breaking down. These may appear to be, contradictory statements, but they are very valid. See, unless you push yourself, you can't achieve anything good. You have to push yourself. You have to, force yourself into working hard, spending a lot of time. At the same time, you also have to ensure that you don't push yourself so hard that you have a breakdown. So pushing hard, but stopping at the right time. And your brain tells you that. Your brain tells you that whether you can do it or not. You see a motivational video and you think that let me do it, but then your brain tells you that मुझसे नहीं होगा, मेरे से नहीं हो सकता, I can't do it. If your brain is clearly telling you I cannot do it and you have done it for a year or two, then accept it and don't push yourself towards the breakdown. If you survive today, you will be able to fight the battles of tomorrow. अभी तो जिंदगी स्टार्ट हुई है, you have just started with your professional careers. अभी तो कुछ भी नहीं किया. अभी तो you have to go into the college, you have to get a degree, and then things start, and you have many battles to fight. If you get this thought na ki I am a failure, remind yourself that you have not even started fighting. Failure और success की बात कहाँ से आ गई? अभी तो बहुत चीज़ें करनी है. But if today you push yourself so much that you develop depressive episode, you become anxious, you lose self-esteem, you lose confidence, how will you fight the battles of tomorrow? Preserve yourself. अपने आप को बचाना. Self-preservation is the most important goal. Everything comes second. If your brain is telling you that this is not for me, leave it there and then. You will get many chances to fight other battles, but जिंदा रहोगे तब तो कुछ करोगे. अगर सारा सेल्फ एस्टीम ही खत्म हो गया, सारा कॉन्फिडेंस ही खत्म हो गया, कुछ बचे ही नहीं, तो काहे की लड़ाई लड़ोगे कल को? If you lose your self esteem, if you lose your confidence, you would not be able to fight any battle. That is very important. Now coming to this whole question of taking money from the parents, a lot of students are stuck in it that my father can afford, my mother can afford sending me to a private college, but I don't want to. I don't want to take their money. Why? Why don't you want to take their money? किसके माँ बाप से पैसा लोगे? अपने माँ बाप से पैसा नहीं लोगे तो? Put yourself into their shoes. If 15 years from today, 20 years from today, your son or daughter comes up to you and says that I want to do this, it requires this much amount of money, but I don't want your money. How will you feel? किसके लिए कमाते हैं? Why do parents earn? For whom parents earn? I mean, not being able to spend money on their kids would be a painful situation to be in. I mean, I don't have kids, but if I had kids and if a kid came to me and said कि मुझे आपके पैसे चाहिए ही नहीं, तो मैं तो बोलूँगा भाई मैंने कमाया किसके लिए फिर? Right? And that is the thought process of majority of the parents, right? They would be more than happy to spend money on you, and why are you feeling guilty? यार अपने माँ बाप से पैसा लेने में किस बात की शर्म है? If they did not have money, that's another thing. See, there are two different aspects. Your parents have money, but you don't want to take it. Secondly, your parents do not have money and you don't want to put them under pressure. The second scenario is perfectly fine. Don't put your parents under pressure. But if you come from a well-to-do family and if your parents are ready to spend money and you know that that money is not that big, say you have 30 CR in bank deposits and you have to pay 1 CR and you're at the stage where you may have a big breakdown, take that money, get into that college, go ahead in life. स्टैग्नेशन सबसे खराब चीज़ है. आगे बढ़ो, कोई बड़ी दिक्कत नहीं है. माँ बाप से पैसा लिए, कोई गुनाह नहीं किया. डोंट फील गिल्टी अबाउट इट. और बहुत गिल्ट फील हो रहा है तो वापस कर देना. राइट? इफ यू फीलिंग अ लॉट ऑफ गिल्ट, रिटर्न दैट मनी. बिकम समथिंग, रिटर्न दैट मनी. कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है. दे विल बी वेरी हैप्पी. दे विल बी सुपर डुपर हैप्पी. बट if your parents do not have money, and that brings us to the third question. If your parents do not have money, do not put them under pressure. Right? I'm assuming your parents must be in their 50s or maybe 60s. And putting them under pressure, asking them to take loan for you, that is not a great thing. Should you take loan? And that whole question of return on investment, that if this branch costs me 70 lakh rupees, is it even worth it? See, in medical sciences, I think this whole idea of ROI is standing on very weak legs. Reason? The growth that you have tends to be slow but finally exponential in case you go into private setups, right? Unfortunately, in our government setups, if you become a PG, maybe you'll make 1 lakh rupees, whatever it is. If you become a SR, you make 1.5. If you become a consultant, maybe you start making 2 or 2.5. And the growth is like that, 7%, 8% per annum. Say you go into private practice. First month, you make 5,000 rupees. By the end of the year, maybe you start making 40,000 rupees. By the end of 2 years, maybe you start making 1 lakh rupees. By the end of the 5th year, maybe you start making 10 lakh rupees. The growth is exponential in a lot of cases, not in every case, but a lot of people do very well in private practice. But to have a flourishing private practice, you have to have great skills, and those skills go beyond the skills of memorizing the exam. And I mean, you have to be very honest, you have to do the right thing, but things tend to multiply very fast. Why am I telling you this? This whole return on investment is based on certain number, that if I start making this much money, if I need this much, if there is this much growth, then this many years are required for me to pay up the loan. In medical sciences, it does not work that way. You may have really good growth. That is the good part. The bad part is you will always be under pressure. So you start your practice and you have to pay a 1 CR loan. You would not be able to make bold choices, right? You have to look for safety, because that EMI is there for you to deposit every month. And when you are not taking bold decisions, when you are afraid of taking decisions, that stifles your growth. So you have to think in that way. Having a loan on your head when you go into private practice is definitely not a good thing, right? It is definitely not a good thing. So if you can study, if you can push yourself, do that. Try not to have a loan when you enter the private practice. But thinking that this branch pays 1 lakh, this branch pays 2 lakh does not really make sense, because the growth can be exponential. The only problem, as I said, you would not be able to make bold decisions, but even then you will be able to do stuff, you'll be able to grow in your life. Maybe the speed may become a bit smaller, a bit lesser, because you're anxious of taking big decisions, but still growth happens. If possible, try not to have that loan on your head. But if you think that you are about to have a breakdown, if you are about to have complete stagnation, then the risk of having a loan while you go into practice is a smaller risk than pushing yourself again and again and going for a breakdown. So guys, as you must have understood, for different people, different things are right. If you have appeared for the exam for the first time, did not get a good rank, and if you can study, please do study. Go for a drop. कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. This whole idea कि paper मुश्किल हो रहा है, paper is becoming tougher, competition is increasing, that is nonsense, right? ऐसे जिंदगी नहीं जी जाती है इतना डर के, right? If you did not study well, if you have that in you that you can prepare again, go for it. No matter what, go for it. Have some courage. If you did study well, you did not get a good result, and you do not have the energy to study again, the idea of studying again just darkens your mood and makes you overwhelmed, go ahead in life. If you come from a well-to-do family, take the money from your parents, take a seat. There's nothing wrong in that. You do not come from a good family, you do not come from a rich family, you'll have to take a loan. That is also okay. You'll have to choose the lesser evil, right? One evil is having to entering into professional life with a loan to pay. One evil is risking breakdown. I think the first evil is something that is still okay. You'll be able to pay the loan back. That is not a big deal. And third option is, if you don't want to do any of these and you still don't have the energy to study, pick up whatever you want, whatever you are getting. Pick up whatever you are getting. In case you are always inclined towards clinical branches, pick a clinical branch. Whether you get diploma, whether you get DNB, take it, right? You can always practice. When you become a clinician, I believe that the scope for growth is better. It depends upon your skills. Nowadays, even paraclinicals and preclinical people are doing pretty well, because there are so many medical colleges coming up. I think they are doing okay. I am not very aware of those things, but from what I have heard, the problem is you have to go to far-flung areas. Personally, if you had always liked clinical work, I would always advise you to pick DNBs and diplomas over pre and paraclinicals, because you get that opportunity to grow. In the world outside the four walls of medical colleges, your degrees are not judged that much. Your skills are judged more. And you can develop the skill. You don't have to have a degree from a fancy institute to be a good doctor, and you can always learn in SRship or later on. That doesn't mean that preclinical and paraclinical are bad. If you want to have that kind of life where you have fixed working hours and all of that, I think there are also good opportunities. You'll have to ask somebody else who is an expert in pre and paraclinical. But personally, I would always prefer clinical, because a person like me always wanted to be in clinical work, right? But again, a disclaimer, that does not apply to everyone. So I think guys, these 3-4 points are important. Let me just summarize. Can you gather the energy to study again? Did you put a real effort last time? Can your parents afford to send you to a private college? If you're feeling guilty, return the money later on, but today take it. Do not put your parents under pressure by asking for money if they don't have it. In that case, take the pressure on yourself, take loan. If you have to, pick a diploma seat, clinical seat. The world of clinical practice would open for you. If you want to have a very balanced lifestyle and you're not very ambitious as far as growth is concerned, preclinical and paraclinical is as good an option. So these are my thoughts on hundreds of messages of the same kind that I have received. I hope it helps you. May God bless you all.